Hey, what's going on guys? Welcome back to Raider World. So in this video, we have Harley Davidson's Tour-Pak rear speaker enclosure kit. These speaker pods enable you to install 6.5-inch rear speakers on street glides or road glides equipped with a King Tour-Pak. This kit includes your left and right speaker pods, all your mounting hardware, and your wiring harness for speaker hookup. In another video, I'll be installing the Rockford Fosgate Stage 3 6-speaker system kit. So if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on future videos. Other than that, let's get this installed. So here's a closer look what comes in the box. You have your left and right speaker pods, you have your mounting brackets, you have 2 gaskets, 2 grommets. This is your speaker harness. This is your jumper harness that's going to lead to your amplifier or your stereo. This is all your mounting hardware. You have some cable ties and obviously your instructions. So for this install, I did use a picking tool, an open end ratchet with a 7/16 socket, another smaller ratchet with a 2/8 extension and a 7/16 socket, a center punch, a 5/16 drill bit, just a smaller drill bit to drill a pilot hole, a burring tool, a marker, or you can use a grease pin, a 2.5-inch hole saw with the adapter, a measuring tape, some painter's tape, silicone sealant, and a drill. And as far as these jack nuts, I would go ahead and just toss these jack nuts. I use these locking nuts here. This is the size you'll need. And the bolts that came in the kit already have Loctite. So from here, I'm gonna go ahead and remove the seat and remove both saddlebags. That way when we're drilling and cutting, we're not dropping anything on our saddlebags, and it kind of just gets them out of the way. From here, I'll go ahead and prep the area with some painter's tape. I'll also cover this up. That way if I drop anything, I'm not scratching the paint. Now that I have this all prepped, I'll go ahead and remove my Tour-Pak liner, and I'll also get this wiring harness out of the way. So in most Tour-Paks, you're gonna see your wiring harness coming out of this side. When I first did this install, I decided to do it on this side, but it doesn't really matter what side you put it on. You can reroute your wires whichever way you need to. All right, so I have the area prepped. I have this covered up just in case I drop anything, I'm not scratching up the paint. Also, when you're closing your Tour-Pak lid, just make sure you're latching it down all the way, because when you take your speaker pod, you're gonna wanna line it up on this lid here. So here I have my right speaker pod. These only go on one way. If you try to put it on the other side, it's not gonna fit correctly. So you'll know if you have it on the right side. Also, this is where your speaker harness is gonna come out of, and you'll have one on the other side as well. So per the instructions, this is shit flush. This is shit flush. If you shit, you gotta flush, right? So the instructions do have a measuring guide, but what I'm gonna do first is just make sure that this speaker pod is level with the backrest and just underneath the lid, and make sure everything around it is flush. Once I mark both of these speaker pods out, I'll go ahead and reference the measuring guide to see if I need to make any corrections. So I'm gonna go ahead and start it off with a 2.5-inch hole saw. As you can see here, there's a curve. So just make sure you're taking your time on this. You can measure this out to get dead center, or just use your hole saw on your outline of your hole. Stick your drill bit through there and kind of just mark the center. That'll give you a reference point where to start. What I like to do is just get rid of all these burrs. You can use a burring tool, or you can just use a file. So now that I have this hole cut out, I want to make sure that I have these mounting holes where they need to be. So I'll take my bracket, insert it from the back side, and I'll use my center punch. From there, I'll drill some pilot holes from the back, and then I'll go ahead and drill from this side. So when I drilled in from the back, you can see that these two were not lined up correctly. So just use your own technique to making sure you're getting these lined up. So here I'm using a 5/16 drill bit to drill out these mounting holes. Same thing with these mounting holes. I'm gonna go ahead and use my burring tool. So just a quick recap how I got these mounting holes to line up. I took the mounting bracket, stuck it in there, used my center punch, and then used the drill bit to drill some pilot holes. So to get all this plastic and trash out of here, I'm gonna go ahead and use a vacuum. So here I have the gasket. The instructions aren't very clear on how this mounts to the Tour-Pak, but my guess is that it mounts around the mounting bracket here. That way it gives you that weather tight seal. So we'll go ahead and remove this tape and mount this on. So this is the wiring harness for the speaker hookup. I'm gonna go ahead and mount this on the inside of the Tour-Pak. So I'll run this connector here through this grommet. So I'll take my speaker connectors and I'll route them behind the mounting bracket inside of the speaker pod. I'll just make sure that when I'm tightening these down, that I'm not pinching these off. So the speaker wire with black is gonna go towards your left speaker pod, and your speaker wire with orange and light gray is gonna go towards your right speaker pod. So as you can see here, I have my speaker wire routed just underneath the mounting bracket on both sides. And then when I tighten this down, I'm gonna make sure nothing's getting pinched off. I just decided to route all the wires from inside the Tour-Pak instead of outside. That way I don't have a lot of wires sitting out here. This is the grommet that you would use, and you would insert it here if you were to run your speaker wires on the outside. It already comes with a slit, so you would run your wires through that, and then you would just insert your grommet into here. I'm gonna go ahead and insert this grommet anyway, and then I'll just put some silicone sealant so there's no water leaking through there. So I'm just using this picking tool to get this grommet set in here correctly. So I finally got this grommet set in here. I'll put some silicone sealant inside of here so there's no water leaking through. And honestly, this was probably the hardest part of this install. So the bolts in the kit already came with Loctite, but if yours didn't come with any, just make sure you add some. So I'll run my speaker wire through the pod and then get these mounting bolts on. So my advice on these jack nuts that came in the kit, I would just go ahead and toss them. These are the lock nuts that I'm gonna use. This is the size that fits those bolts that came in the kit. So now I'll just take my bolt that came in the kit, I'll take the washer, I'll run that through. Then I'll take this bolt, run it through the mounting bracket, take another washer, run that through, take my locking nut, and then tighten it down. So the tools I'm using for this, I have a 7/16 socket with a 2-inch extension. So this ratchet I'll use inside the speaker pod with a 7/16 open end socket. That way when I'm tightening this bolt down, it just runs right through the socket. So here I have my left speaker pod. We're gonna do the exact same thing we did on the right side. So the torque specs on these bolts, it's calling for 20 to 25 inch-pounds. Because I have the speaker wire running behind here, I'm just gonna snug them down really good. So I was able to use the same grommet. Here I have the speaker wiring harness, and here I have the LED light harness. So now that I have the speaker pods installed, I'm gonna go ahead and close the Tour-Pak lid just to make sure that these speaker pods are not interfering with anything. So this is one of Harley Davidson's Tour-Pak liners. I'm not gonna use this liner, but basically if you're gonna mount this on, you would remove this tether. You have 2 bolts on this side. You'll take this tether off. You'll slap this over it, remount your tether, and then you also have 2 speaker pod holes here. You just finish cutting those out, and that way you can let your speaker pods breathe through there. All right guys, so that was your Harley Davidson Tour-Pak rear speaker enclosure kit install. I haven't done the jumper harness yet because I still have to install the Rockford Fosgate Stage 3 6-speaker kit. So if you want to see that video, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and I'll see you guys on the next one.